My husband refused to attend our daughter's kindergarten parent-child sports day. Instead, he showed up with his first love's son and even allowed the boy to call him dad. Later, on my birthday, he went as far as bringing his first love and her son to live in our home. When I expressed my dissatisfaction, he scolded me, saying, "Georgia is divorced, just returned to the country with nowhere to stay. You shouldn't be so immature." So, as he demanded, I kept quiet and didn't make a fuss. Silently, I arranged for a lawyer to draft the divorce agreement. When Ryan was frantically calling all our friends and family to find me, I had already boarded a plane abroad with our daughter. The manager was very surprised when he received my request for an overseas assignment. After all, I had refused promotions multiple times to stay in the country and hadn't had a raise in 5 years. I lowered my head and gave a bitter laugh. I was thoughtless before, but now I've come to understand. After hanging up the phone, I heard Ryan and his friend chatting over video in the living room. "Ryan, you just brought Georgia back like that. What if your sister-in-law makes a fuss?" "How could she? She finally got together with me, she's eager to please me. Besides, her parents are abroad, if she really caused trouble, no one here would back her up." My hand froze on the door handle, filled with bitter irony. I had said goodbye to my parents and sacrificed my career to maintain this marriage. Now, it had become the leverage he used to control me. Seeing me suddenly appear, his friend was startled, his expression awkward. "Sister-in-law, so you were at home all along." But Ryan showed no discomfort at all. "Honey, once Georgia finds a place and moves out, let's go on a trip together. It's been a long time since we had some time alone." See, even his friend knew not to let me hear what was just said, but Ryan didn't care at all. He was certain I couldn't live without him. "We'll talk about the future later." The excuse he had prepared in advance got stuck in his throat. After a brief silence, he quickly switched to a relaxed tone. "I thought you were going to argue with me again because of Georgia. That's the only way to be sensible." I listened to his choice of words, feeling increasingly cold inside. "No more arguing. I won't argue with you anymore from now on." Hearing this, Ryan began, just like countless times before, lecturing me on how foolish and petty it was to argue with him over Georgia. He always did this, taking my compromises and concessions as signs of guilt and weakness, pushing his advantage further. Before he could finish, his phone rang. From the receiver came a childish voice. "Daddy, I'm here. Come downstairs to pick up Mom and me." Ryan instinctively responded, hung up, and headed out. Before leaving, he didn't forget to remind me, "Richard lacks a father's love, so don't take it personally." "Ryan," I interrupted him, "no need to explain so much, I believe you." Ryan paused for a moment, then tossed out, "Good that you believe me," and opened the door to leave. The "taking it personally" he referred to was about Richard calling him dad. At first, I truly believed Ryan's excuse about his lack of love. It wasn't until Ryan abandoned my daughter and attended the kindergarten parent-child sports day under Richard's name that I realized, rather than the child lacking love, it was Ryan who was just being despicable. Fortunately, I've now decided to take my daughter away. Forget calling him dad, even calling him grandpa doesn't really concern me anymore. Today was the day Georgia moved into my house, and the living room was piled high with suitcases of all sizes. Ryan went up and down the stairs carrying luggage, sweating profusely from the effort. Georgia smiled warmly as she watched her son wipe Ryan's sweat. After greeting me, she casually put her things into the guest bedroom as if we were old friends. I couldn't be bothered watching their happy little show, so I turned and went to the bedroom to start organizing the documents for my daughter's overseas trip. Just then, Mom called. As soon as I answered, her gentle voice came through, "Sweetheart, happy birthday. Remember to eat your longevity noodles today." The grievances in my heart instantly overflowed. My parents had long since immigrated across the ocean with my eldest sister. As for me, after graduating from university, because Ryan said he didn't want to go abroad, I resolutely said goodbye to my parents and stayed in the country with him. At that time, Ryan held me tenderly and promised to accompany me abroad every year to reunite with my parents. But what about later? He either complained that the plane tickets were too expensive or that it would interfere with work. In the blink of an eye, it had been 5 years since I last reunited with my family. And I hadn't celebrated a birthday in 5 years either. Suppressing my sobs, I hurriedly hung up the phone. My heart was swollen, filled with bitterness. Lost in thought, a sudden pain struck the back of my head. At the bedroom door, Richard stood holding a toy gun. "I'll shoot you dead, bad woman. What right do you have to stay at my dad's house?" Before I could speak, Georgia apologized to me first. "Sorry, Sister Tara, Richard is still a child. Please don't take it to heart." Ryan, standing nearby, looked displeased. "What's there to apologize for? Richard treating her like that is only because she scared him." He was referring to the time at kindergarten when I caught Richard calling him dad and had a big fight with him on the spot. Ryan picked up Richard, shielding Georgia and her son, and looked down at me with disdain. "Tara, don't tell me you're so petty you can't even tolerate a child." I said nothing, and all the blame fell squarely on me. But there was no need to argue anymore. I shrugged indifferently and said, "Whatever." Ignoring the three of them, I grabbed my coat and headed out to pick up my daughter from school. Just as I stepped out the door, my hand was grabbed. "Tara?" I looked at Ryan, who had chased after me, with some confusion. "Why are you following me out?" Ryan was momentarily stunned by my question. This was the first time he had left Georgia behind to chase after me. Given my usual reaction, I shouldn't have been so cold. Under my questioning gaze, Ryan's face fell a little. He let go of my hand. Behind us came Richard's cheer. "Yeah, finally chased away the bad woman. No one's going to fight me for dad anymore." I watched the elevator doors slowly close in front of me. I took out my phone and double-checked the flight information for 2 weeks from now. 5 years ago, I had been too foolish, too blinded by love. Now, everything should finally get back on track. Thinking that I might not return to my home country again, after dinner, I decided to take my daughter to the movies. I just didn't expect to run into Ryan and the others again. When my daughter called out Dad, Ryan was holding Richard in one arm and pulling Georgia along with the other, chatting and laughing as they looked for seats. Seeing my daughter, Ryan looked a bit flustered and instinctively glanced at me. "Richard hasn't been to the movies since returning home, Tara, you can't." Before he could finish, I cut him off coldly. "You're blocking my view." Their seats were diagonally in front of me. Throughout the entire movie, I could feel his eyes glancing over at me from time to time. And every time he turned his head, Georgia would lean in close and whisper something to him. I had no time to pay attention to him, completely absorbed in the plot. After it ended, I didn't see the three of them. I thought they had left early, but as soon as I stepped out of the cinema, I saw Ryan and the others waiting at the entrance. Georgia's expression hadn't looked great at first, but when she saw me, she immediately put on a warm smile. Richard was in a hurry to go to the restroom, so we came out early. "Tara, let's head back together." Ryan stood beside her, staring off into the distance, lost in thought. My daughter, unaware of the tensions between adults, pointed at the cake box in Ryan's hand and asked innocently, "Daddy, is this the birthday cake you brought for Mommy?" Ryan looked a bit embarrassed. Just as he was about to speak, Georgia cut in first. "So today is Tara's birthday, huh?" She gave Ryan a slightly reproachful glance. "Ryan, seriously, how could you forget such an important day? If I had known, we would have invited Tara to dinner back then." After saying that, she grabbed the cake box and pushed it in front of me. "Tara, sorry for making Ryan late in celebrating your birthday. Here, take this and enjoy it. Happy birthday." Such a blatant provocation, Georgia must have heard a lot from Ryan about my past attempts to chase him. Anyway, Ryan would never stand up for me. I looked at the cake, already poked and battered, with barely any left, and chuckled softly. "Better keep it for yourself. When it comes to eating leftovers, you're the expert, aren't you?" That one sentence made Georgia's face turn pale and then flush red. Quite a show. She wanted to snap back but was held back by her gentle and kind persona. In the end, she just gave an awkward smile and dragged Ryan away. I made my disgust blatantly obvious on my face, hoping the two of them would get the hint. Let me spend these last few days in the country in peace. But one of them, who taught his son to call random men dad just to freeload food and drinks. The other, who disregards his wife and daughter and eagerly plays lapdog to his old flame. You can never measure them by normal human standards of pride or shame. By the time I got home, it was already night. I put my daughter to sleep and was about to rest when Ryan knocked on the door again. Tara, Georgia won't change her bedsheets. Can you help her with it? I had a headache. How does this guy always act like it's so natural? Afraid of waking my daughter, I had no choice but to open the door. Georgia stood behind Ryan, speaking softly and shyly. Sorry, Sister Tara, I'm troubling you. Back home, the servants used to change the bedding and do these chores for me, so I'm not very good at it. Servants? I sneered coldly. Didn't your family go bankrupt long ago? What, you still haven't learned after all these years? Yes, when Georgia and Ryan were dating, they were known at school as wealthy second-generation heirs. But later, her company went bankrupt, and Ryan's family had no money, so she decisively broke up and immediately married another rich heir, moving abroad. My words made Georgia's face freeze for a moment, and the next instant, her eyes welled up with tears. Ryan's expression darkened beside her. Tara, do you have to be so cruel when you speak? After a whole day of frustration, I never expected to be provoked again right before bed. Unable to hold back the anger inside me any longer, I snapped, what else? She's already been accepted into the family, yet she still expects me to run around like your personal servant. Ryan, do you even see me as your wife anymore? Ryan was so stunned by my words that his face flushed red and then paled repeatedly. He opened his mouth but couldn't find anything to retort. Georgia timidly tugged at his sleeve. Forget it, Ryan. Today it's our fault. I didn't realize Tara cared so much about her birthday. Ryan seemed to be reminded of something and looked at me with a sneer. What do you mean, see you as your wife? All this fuss over that? Tara, you're not a kid anymore, do you really have to be so dramatic? Besides, Georgia was kind enough to give you a cake, but you were petty and refused it yourself. Now go and tidy up her bed. Watching Georgia's subtle provocations and Ryan's collusion to put me down, I felt the fire inside me blaze hotter and hotter. I just wanted to curse them both recklessly, no matter the consequences. But my daughter was already asleep. I closed my eyes, burying that anger deep inside, then looked up again, calm once more. Ryan, if you want to be a simp, don't drag me into it. In the following days, Ryan and Georgia didn't bother me anymore. More accurately, I became invisible to them. I was more than happy to enjoy the peace. That day, I went to pick up my daughter from her piano lesson as usual. But at the classroom door, I saw Ryan already waiting. When he saw me, it was as if the Cold War of the past 2 days never happened. He sighed about how fast our daughter was growing and said it had been a long time since he'd come to pick her up from school. I listened, feeling nothing but irony. What long time? Ryan had never picked her up before. Not to mention school pickups, he hadn't even taken a single day off to care for her when she was hospitalized with a fever. Once, I was completely fooled by his words about working hard to earn money so as not to let his wife down for moving far away for him. Now it seems it was just because he had no sense of responsibility. I have already told the piano teacher that our daughter is going abroad and won't be coming to class anymore. Afraid she might slip up and say something. Without showing any emotion, I quietly walked behind Ryan and took a photo of him looking at our daughter through the glass. I posted it on social media with the caption family. Belated affection is worth less than grass. Since I've decided to leave, I will not allow any mistakes that could possibly delay my divorce. And Georgia is definitely my best ally. Sure enough, in less than 10 minutes, Ryan was hurriedly called away by a phone call. I didn't tell my daughter that her dad had just been about to pick her up. I know all too well how painful it is to be given hope only to be disappointed. It's not a pleasant feeling. I originally thought Ryan went to pick up our daughter that day out of some belated fatherly love. It wasn't until the piano teacher called that I realized he intended to give our daughter's piano spot to George's son. Our daughter's teacher is a retired national-level performer, with limited enrollment spots each year. To add someone new, someone else has to give up their place. I had waited a whole year, pulling strings and giving gifts, just to get this opportunity. Now Ryan casually wants to hand over our daughter's spot to someone else as if it's nothing. At that moment, my resolve had never been stronger. I recommended the manager's niece, who was also on the waiting list, to the piano teacher. Rather than letting a heartless Ryan take advantage, I'd rather do a favor for the manager. I didn't hide this from Lily. Richard's little brother already stole Dad away, and now he wants to steal my teacher too. Dad, you're so unfair. These days, Ryan's favoritism toward Georgia and her son was not only obvious to me but also etched deeply in my daughter's heart. Her sensitive mind, though immature, already quivered with tears as she questioned. Ryan never comforted his daughter. At a loss, he happened to see me nearby and immediately found a target for his frustration. Tara, it's one thing for you to be selfish, but now you're teaching Lily to be just as cold-hearted as you? Georgia had been curled up silently in the bedroom. Hearing Ryan's accusations from outside, she finally opened the door with reddened eyes. Forget it, Ryan, Richard won't be learning piano anymore. I'm sorry, Sister Tara. Richard only has me as his mother, and I only want the best for him. You're a mother too, so I'm sure you can understand. Her voice was soft, but the look in her eyes was full of defiance. Unexpectedly, I smiled brightly and said, "All right, I understand. Tomorrow I'll go and withdraw Lily from the class." Ryan hadn't anticipated such a straightforward agreement from me. Unlike George's delight, his brow furrowed deeply. Just as I was about to take out the divorce agreement, I heard a piercing scream from my daughter's room. Ignoring everything else, I rushed in and saw Lily pinned to the ground by Richard, the boy holding a toy gun he often played with, repeatedly smashing her palm with the butt of the gun. "I told you to play." Play. Though only 5 years old, the cruelty on his face was chilling. My heart jolted violently as I shoved Richard away. When I lifted my daughter up, her left hand was already injured. As Ryan pulled Richard away, he still sneered provocatively, "Who told you to take my piano lessons? I smashed your hand to ruin it, let's see how you play now." I could no longer contain the anger boiling inside me. I grabbed Richard, who was hiding behind Ryan, and slapped him several times across the face. Georgia screamed and threw herself onto Richard, shielding him. "Tara, calm down. He's still a child." Ryan shouted loudly as he grabbed me. Our daughter had been beaten like this, and yet he was still protecting the culprit. Without hesitation, I slapped him several times. Ryan looked incredulous and instinctively wanted to yell back at me. When his eyes met mine, filled with disappointment and fury, he suddenly realized he had come to check on our daughter's condition. Holding my daughter, I turned away and said, "Ryan, I want a divorce." My daughter was injured, and I had to get her to the hospital quickly. But before I could even step out the door, a sharp pain shot through my arm. I looked down. Behind me, Richard was waving a toy knife he must have found somewhere, his swollen face twisted with rage. "Wicked woman, die," he snarled, lunging to stab me again. This time, I didn't hold back, I kicked him 3 meters away. Ryan rushed over, scooped up Richard from the ground, and scolded angrily, "Tara, are you crazy? How could you lay a hand on a child?" I was too tired to argue with them anymore and just walked away. At the hospital, after the doctor's examination, it turned out Lily's injuries were mostly superficial cuts and bruises. With some rest, she would recover fully. She was scared by Richard. Tearful, she curled up trembling in my arms. My hatred for Ryan and his son Georgia grew even stronger. I had been too lenient before. As for Richard, I had no intention of letting it go and reported him directly to the police. Since it involved a child, it ultimately ended with just a financial settlement. I had anticipated this long ago. So at the hospital, I made sure every possible examination was done. I included nutrition fees, medical expenses, and even compensation for emotional distress. Altogether, it added up to nearly tens of thousands. Ryan wanted to pay on Georgia's behalf, but found that his bank card had already been frozen by court order at my request, citing joint property preservation. Georgia had no choice but to obediently pay up. She had returned to the country because she couldn't survive abroad, and after coming back, she was too lazy to look for a job. All her living expenses were covered by Ryan, and this loss only made her financial situation even worse. And this could definitely make her the best ally in speeding up the divorce process between Ryan and me. When I got home, Georgia was sitting on the sofa holding Richard, rolling an egg on his face. Meanwhile, Ryan was in the kitchen cutting fruit for the two of them. Seeing me return, Ryan's gaze fell on our daughter's arm, bandaged up like a dumpling. A flicker of worry crossed his face as he was about to ask. But Georgia suddenly spoke up beside him, "Ryan, I'm moving out tomorrow. I never intended to interfere in your relationship with Tara. If I stay any longer, who knows how badly Richard will get beaten." As she finished speaking, Richard in her arms grew upset, crying out for his dad. Ryan looked apologetic and said to me, "Tara, what happened today was Richard's fault, but you hit him too. Maybe you could." I didn't respond, just took out the divorce agreement I hadn't gotten around to last time. "Sign this," I said. Ryan looked down, his face twisting in panic. "You really want to divorce me?" I flipped to the last page of the divorce agreement, showing that it was already signed. Ryan snatched the papers away and tore them to pieces, growling, "Why? We're fine, why do we have to divorce?" Georgia suddenly knelt beside me. "Sister Tara, I'm sorry. If you hate me and Richard, then we'll leave now. Ryan only cares about me and Richard, please don't blame him." Sarcastic and sly, retreating to advance. I suddenly yanked Georgia up from the ground. A slap landed on her face. "Haven't you provoked enough these past few days?" Georgia covered her face, looking at me with utter resentment. "Do you really think I wouldn't dare lay a hand on you?" The coldness in my eyes was too blatant. Georgia was so frightened she froze in place. I turned my head to look at Ryan's raised right hand. A mocking smile crossed my lips. "Is this what you call all good? To hit your own wife over an outsider, bold move, Ryan." They didn't stay long. Ryan used the excuse that I needed to calm down and left with Georgia and the child. The house finally fell silent. I stared at the home filled with memories. Apart from hatred, all that remained in my heart was a deep, bitter ache. Ryan's family was poor, and this house was still bought by my parents before I got married. On the first day we moved in, Ryan held me tightly and promised firmly, "Wife, I will work hard to buy you a bigger and better house." Maybe he was sincere then, but promises only count at the moment they are spoken. After they left, I quickly packed up all the documents and luggage. I moved back to my parents' old house with my daughter. When Ryan came home and found half the house empty, he hurriedly called me. Only after learning that I had just returned to my parents' house did he breathe a sigh of relief. "Wife, you've vented your anger, can't you try to understand me? You used to be so sensible." Ryan's voice was helpless and weary, as if I were the unreasonable one. "I've already kicked Georgia out. From now on, it's just the three of us living together happily." The reply he got was the sound of the call being hung up. Did they really move out? Half an hour later, I watched the surveillance footage and saw Georgia and her son reappear, a cold sneer forming in my heart. Georgia wouldn't give up on Ryan so easily. She used to rely on her parents, then on her husband after marriage, and now she was back in the country with no job and no place to live. How could she let go so easily when Ryan was practically chasing after her? Richard's repeated calls of Dad softened Ryan's heart. Thinking that I wasn't home anyway, I let them move back in. In the following days, Ryan seemed like a different person. He left work early every day, picked up his daughter from school, had dinner with me, and occasionally gave me small gifts. To show his determination not to divorce, he even moved into the company dorm. I took photos of all this and posted them on my social media, documenting everything. As for Georgia, the meager balance, the uncontrollable ex, and the constant fear of being kicked out at any moment left her overwhelmed. Her recent provocations were nothing more than attempts to drive me away and take over as the lady of the house herself. Now that I had finally agreed to the divorce, it was Ryan who was eager to push forward. Finally, after seeing the screenshots in my social circle where I was chatting with the real estate agent about swapping school district houses with the child's father, Georgia couldn't sit still. She sent message after message, saying Richard had a fever and was crying, wanting to find him. After reading them, Ryan looked hesitant. I hadn't brought up the divorce with him these past few days. He believed we were getting along well. I pretended not to notice his inner conflict, using the excuse of an early start the next day to take our daughter to bed early, giving him plenty of space. Sure enough, half an hour later, I saw Ryan on the home surveillance. The moment Georgia spotted him, she warmly went up to greet him. She had put thought into it, wearing the same aqua blue dress she wore when she and Ryan took their graduation photos. While Ryan went to soothe Richard, she was cooking in the kitchen. She even brought out some wine. I was too lazy to watch the two of them pouring out their hearts. It wasn't until early the next morning that I checked the footage from the night before. Georgia certainly didn't disappoint me. She put on a full performance of drunken passion. Ryan was hesitant at first, but eventually half reluctantly gave in, and the two of them went wild all night. In the days that followed, Ryan used business trips as an excuse and didn't come to see his daughter anymore. Although the surveillance showed no further boundary crossing between Ryan and Georgia, their interactions grew increasingly intimate. Perhaps she felt she could finally beat me. Georgia was unusually active on social media. Besides posting a few ambiguous photos of a man's back, she also shared pictures of the breakfast Ryan made for her and the blocks they built with the child. Georgia even took advantage of the fleeting passage of time to dig up old photos of their past romance. I didn't reply. I just silently saved and collected them. 3 days before I was to leave the country, the agent told me the contract was ready to be signed. So I immediately rushed back. Seeing me return, Ryan looked a bit flustered. He stammered, explaining that his business trip had ended early and he came back just to help Georgia pack up the remaining luggage. I gave him a half smile and a sidelong glance. It's time to pack up properly. Then I revealed the real estate agent standing behind me. Ryan's expression changed, but before he could speak, Georgia frowned and stood up for him. Sister Tara, Ryan is still here. Why did you bring a man home? Ryan didn't say anything, but his glare at me seemed to agree. The agent looked a bit embarrassed and quickly pulled out a property sale contract. Miss Tara, the contract is ready. Please take a look, and if there are no issues, we can sign it now. Honey, what contract? I didn't bother to respond and signed it promptly. Then I turned to the stunned Ryan and said, I'm selling this house. You two better pack up and get out quickly. If you sell the house, where will I live? Honey, haven't we already made up? I looked at Ryan's shocked face and sneered, who said I want to make up with you? Sign the divorce papers quickly. Take your little lover and get out. Georgia, who was watching the drama unfold nearby, brightened up when she heard me insist on a divorce. But when she saw the agent standing beside me, she grew restless again. On what grounds are you kicking us out? This house belongs to Ryan. Do you have the authority to decide? She tugged on Ryan's sleeve as she spoke. Ryan, are you just going to let her bully you like this? I was a bit speechless. Didn't you figure it out before moving in? This house is my premarital property, it has nothing to do with Ryan. Hearing this, Georgia looked incredulous. She turned to Ryan for confirmation but saw him looking utterly dejected. The reason Georgia came straight to Ryan as soon as she returned to the country was because Ryan was nothing more to her than a free place to stay and an ATM. Victory was right within her grasp, but it all ended up being for nothing. How could she possibly accept that? Honey, do you really have to be this ruthless? Ryan said with a sigh. I found it amusing, weren't you the one who started it? Playing the cheap dad for someone, running around to provide food and drink, even bringing them home. Now you two have patched things up and your love is stronger than ever. I admit defeat, I withdraw, is that not enough? How many times have I told you, it's not what you think? If I really had something going on with Georgia, how could I possibly marry you? The same excuse again. My tone suddenly turned cold as I cut him off. Do you really want me to make it that clear? I pointed to the camera on top of the cabinet. Ryan followed my finger and instantly went pale. Trembling, he said, "You saw everything?" I nodded, then glanced at Georgia, who was avoiding my gaze. It was originally meant to watch the dog, but I didn't expect to actually catch a pair of lovebirds. Tara. You did this on purpose? You filthy woman, I'm going to sue you for invasion of privacy. Georgia could no longer maintain her innocent, naive act and immediately started cursing. This is my home, and besides, I didn't say anything wrong. I gave Ryan a half smile, half sneer. He remembered. That camera really was something I bought to watch the dog. Ryan had promised his daughter a puppy she had been longing for. For that, I had already bought dog food, treats, and the surveillance equipment in advance. But when it came down to it, Ryan changed. He found all sorts of excuses, saying he absolutely wouldn't buy anything for our daughter, and then gave me the cold shoulder for several days. Then Georgia moved in. Oh, and she's allergic to dog hair. This camera is useless, isn't it? Ryan's lips trembled in disbelief. I was too tired to explain again and instead turned to the agent to confirm the details of selling the house. Ryan followed me with a pale face, several times trying to speak but each time I ignored him. In the end, Georgia left, but not before a little incident. Richard threw a tantrum and refused to leave. Ryan grew irritated by the noise and snapped at him a couple of times. As a result, Richard bit down hard on the webbing between Ryan's thumb and index finger. He even drew blood. I wasn't surprised by the outcome. I knew from the last time that Richard, even at such a young age, had a moody temperament. If left uneducated, this child would sooner or later cause a big disaster. Ryan still tried to win me back, lowering his stance and speaking kindly to me. I chuckled lightly and personally took his luggage out of the house. Ryan stared at me intently, and only after confirming I wouldn't relent did his eyes gradually shift from hopeful to disappointed. Not long after he left, he sent me a message. Wife, I love you, and I will not divorce you. Maybe you think I've done something unforgivable, but I will explain everything to you properly. On the third day after Ryan left, I boarded a plane abroad with my daughter. My parents didn't know I was coming back. When they opened the door, they were completely stunned. It wasn't until my daughter sweetly called out "Grandpa, Grandma" that they finally came to their senses. The days spent with my parents were warm and fulfilling. After a few tentative questions from them about why Ryan hadn't come back with me, I pursed my lips and decided to be honest about wanting a divorce from Ryan. After hearing this, my parents hugged me tightly, tears streaming down their faces. They felt both heartache for what I had endured and relief that I was able to break free so quickly. I didn't dwell on the past for long. After finding a good school for my daughter, I threw myself into work. The house and car I left behind in the country were being handled by an agent. Ryan couldn't get into the house, and the car was gone. After several calls to me went unanswered, he finally realized I was truly determined to cut all ties with him this time. He went to my company to inquire. The manager said I had already applied to transfer abroad. Ryan was incredulous. He knew very well how much effort I had made to stay in the country for him. He asked the manager when I applied. The manager said it was on my birthday. Hearing that date, Ryan became even more puzzled. After we got married, I had never once brought up celebrating my birthday. He thought I wasn't the type to be sentimental. Besides, we already had a child. So why wouldn't I give him even one chance? Just leave like that without a word. He felt there must be something else he didn't know. He wanted to call my friends, wanted to contact my parents. But when he picked up his phone, he was at a loss. Because he didn't have a single contact number. In the end, he could only return to his rented room in defeat. It wasn't until he tidied up the room and found a cracked ceramic figurine that he finally understood. Someone who would personally make him a birthday gift couldn't possibly not care about their own birthday. It was he who didn't understand me at all. The manager back home called, saying Ryan had asked her to check on me. He missed Lily and wondered if he could hear her voice. I understood Ryan's little feelings. I didn't stop him and handed the phone directly to my daughter. The two of them chatted happily. Until Ryan casually asked when she would come home. Lily said, "Here, I have grandparents who never miss my kindergarten events, who stay with me when I'm sick, and who take me to do anything I want. This is my home." That one sentence left Ryan speechless. So, his daughter's departure wasn't because of Georgia and her son. She had already suffered so many grievances. The phone was back in my hand. Silence lingered for a long moment. Ryan spoke with difficulty, "Tara, you don't have to forgive me, but please think about Lily. Do you really want her to grow up in a single-parent environment?" He, too, grew up in a single-parent family and had endured a lot of hardship since childhood. "I'd rather Lily have no father at all." I calmly dropped that final sentence. Back home, Georgia went mad, relentlessly urging Ryan to fight me for the property until the divorce agreement forced Ryan to walk away with nothing. After all, what was being fought over now was the future living expenses for her and her son. Ryan called again, cautiously asking if I could leave him some money. Because of this, I decisively borrowed $5 million from my parents to buy a new house. The house was for the child's education and also served as a home for family life. He refused to accept my terms, so let him bear the debt. Ryan had no choice but to sign and agree. Under the court's online mediation, we got divorced. But just because we divorced doesn't mean I'm willing to let them off. I gathered all the evidence of his interactions with Georgia and posted it all online. While Georgia was abroad, she constantly updated her daily life on social media to flaunt her wealth. This time, back in the country, she restarted her account to capitalize on internet traffic. She gained quite a few followers by using the topic "single mom's love story." The reason I found his account was because she once posted a photo in her friend circle and forgot to remove the watermark ID. Georgia is trending again, and it's a big deal. What once moved people deeply about her rekindled romance with her first love now only makes them feel disgusted. This so-called rekindling is nothing but weighing pros and cons while playing the mistress to break up someone else's family. The MCN that was about to sign her has gone silent. No money earned, and her reputation is ruined. As for the story's male lead, Ryan. During the few days he stayed in the country, I reached out to the clients he had. When Ryan indulged Georgia's provocations against me, he probably forgot that before refusing a promotion at the company, I was also an outstanding professional woman. The client data he currently holds was still organized by me. After I left, his work progress has been stumbling along. The company, sympathizing with a middle-aged man whose family fell apart, only gave him a couple of warnings. After the cheating rumors exploded, netizens dug up Ryan's company. Along with that, the company's products were boycotted. So the boss simply fired him, citing major risks. After Ryan was fired, Georgia didn't waste any time and ran off. And she left the child behind. Just like when she unilaterally broke up with Ryan years ago. Should she be called a good mother or what? Before she left, she even made an excuse to put Richard's household registration under Ryan's name. Ryan had no choice. If he didn't want to be accused of abandonment, he had to keep raising Richard. It turned out that after Georgia left Ryan, she found another ex and planned to pull the same trick again. Only this time, she was unlucky. She was driven out by the combined forces of the other woman's in-laws. After that, I no longer followed their news. Once rid of scum, my life could only get better and better.